You are here for learning the good, dirty stuff. You know, there are obviously a lot of opportunities that you have on classes which you can go to, okay? But there's only so many that can yield a huge return. This is one of them. So kudos for you to be here. I'm going to let this drive this presentation where it is. I have to consider the fact that we have people that don't do sewer inspections that have considered it. Some people say, I don't want to do it. Let me see if I want to do it. You know, I've heard every reason why you do or do not want to do it, okay? A lot, you know, when I started in this, and I did my first scan in 2014, so 11 years ago, and there's a number of, now there's like 5 guys that are teaching. I launched in 2016, I launched my sewer scan training. There was no training in the industry on how to do this. You pretty much had to figure it out. And you know what's most interesting is you call every manufacturer, okay? You sell a camera, how do you do it? You know, you take some companies like FLIR, for example, they created ITC because they knew there was selling a product, but then people didn't necessarily know how to use the infrared camera, barely turn it on, and what the heck is it actually doing? Well, there was no manufacturer that was actually teaching people how to use their product. There was how to turn it on and how to hit record, but there was nothing on how to build a business, how to present a report to a client. So those were all things that were necessary, and that's the things that I had to, you talk about inventing the wheel, that's what I had to do. I had to sit there and figure out, so I spent literally a year developing material, collecting data, because nobody was willing to share. Now, if you call up a plumber, what's the plumber's initial thought? When you call them and say, hey, can you show me how to do this? Now, he knows how to do it, but what is their initial reaction? What?
You're going to take their business.
That's right. Do you know that you answered perfectly, sir? But let me explain to you. That guy doesn't even know what the hell he does for a living. Do you want to know why? When you think about it, in any business, when you go, is the doctor or the surgeon making the money? Let's be real. The surgeon. So when the guy is speaking that you're taking his business, he missed a huge thing. He didn't see the potential. So if I was a plumber, I'd say, hell yeah, I want to teach all of you how to do sewer inspections. In fact, I want to give you a sewer camera. Why? Because you're going to be the generation of their surgery. You're going to do the marketing. See, if they truly knew the profession that they're dealing with in home inspection, what are we not allowed to do as inspectors? We're not allowed to work on them. We can report them, but we can't work on them. So now let's take that plumber. I tell you, if I lined up this room with plumbers and educated them about the opportunity of encouraging home inspectors to do sewer inspections, they would be very happy. So, great answer, because it's the truth. But the reality is, when you truly understand the potential of this business far beyond what your wildest dreams can be, because when you can sit there and increase your revenue 30 to 50% in 15 to 30 minutes, there is nothing else that pays this good, okay? Even thermal imaging. Now, yes, I make very good money. It's over 50% of the revenue that I make today is in thermal imaging. But when you talk about what you can make per hour and what it generates, sewer by far. So, the agenda. Let's get to the root of it. Can I make money with it? Why do it? Will my agents go for it? What kind of equipment does it take? Sewer basics. And I'll give you some examples. Now what I mean is, I'm going to drive through this presentation on the beginning, which is some of the equipment, because there's people who haven't done it. And I want you to have a good understanding of what the equipment is and what you can do out there. And then, once we get through that, then we'll start going through the types of things we can see. And then my goal is that we have time to discuss your challenges. What is your challenge? If you're not doing it, what is your challenge? If you are doing it and you're not getting the business, what is your challenge? I'll help you get through it. I've done enough of these guys. I've trained enough people. I hopefully will have an answer for you today. Okay? And then, of course, show me the money. All right, so here's the thing. In our home inspections, no matter what association you belong to, they establish a standards of practice, okay? And within the standards of practice, it states that you are not required to be technically exhaustive. Now, technically exhaustive means utilizing tools that are beyond the basics. We have a flashlight, we have a receptacle tester, okay? If you use a moisture meter, that's considered technically exhaustive, okay? If you use a carbon monoxide meter, if you use a sewer camera, if you use an infrared camera, all of those are technically exhaustive. Well, here's the thing. We're going to get into why and what inspectors are doing today and what they shouldn't be doing unless they get, what's that? Yes. So if you're going to exceed it, get paid for it, okay? This is a big challenge. Many guys started doing infrared scanning. They bought a camera because they could. Now, back in the day, keep in mind, I started United Infrared 18 years ago, and I would get guys to come in, and at the time, it was $10,000 for an infrared camera. Well, keep in mind, guys, when I bought in, I spent $20,000, okay? I spent $20,000 on an infrared camera. Today, I can sell you a camera that's $300 that is more powerful than the camera that I spent $20,000. So the question for all the entrepreneurs and the business people in here is, I've made millions of dollars in infrared. Would you exchange that for $18,000, $19,700, you know? I wouldn't want to wait. I want to do it while I can. I want to get it while it's boiling, while it's hot. So the inspectors who started adding it felt like they had to give it away. So help me God, you don't have to give away anything. The reason why people give it away is because their confidence is not high. How do we build, anybody give me an example of how you build confidence?
Stomp on your toe.
Stomp on your toe, that's confident, okay. Anybody else? Do you think that being here today will build your confidence? So training is a confidence builder. So if we're going to utilize training and we can build confidence, then we can intelligently charge for a service. That's the goal that I have for you today. Is not that you're ever going to give this away, because I saw what happened for the people who gave it away. What is the value of nothing? Nothing. When you give something for free, costs nothing, that value is not appreciated. But when you charge something for it, they want to see the value. They can see the value through their expense and through what you present to them. Now let's be real. Why do people have a home inspection? They want to see what they're buying. Okay? They're getting any horror stories. Do you want me to tell you the nuts and bolts of it? The reasons why they're getting a home inspection is because they believe they overpaid for the house. They want to renegotiate the transaction. There is anybody in this room say, my God, I got the best deal ever on a home. No, you spent the most money ever on a home. You say, God, that was expensive. There is a difference between expensive and investment. Anybody know what that is? Expensive is a nice dinner. Now, it was an investment if it was worth it for you. If there's a return on investment, when I spend money, see, that was the problem with infrared cameras in the beginning. Is they'd spend 10 grand and they would sit on the shelves. And then the next year, the spouse would be with that person who just spent 10 grand with me the year before, and they're like pulling them away from the booth going, they never did anything with it. Let me tell you, if you're going to spend the money, you need to do something with it. If you're a spouse of someone who's bought that, you need to kick them in the pants and say, you bought something. Put it to work. I'm going to help you get there, guys. Okay? So many people gave away a service like on thermal imaging because they felt like they had to get the business. But that's not true. Confidence is what sells. When clients see your confidence, they will accept it. Okay? I am probably one of the highest inspection fee companies in America. Okay? My average home inspection as of today is $1,145. That's my average. Does anybody beat me in this room? There's not one hand up. Okay? That's my average inspection. Now, I don't do as many as I used to. In my second year, third year of inspections, I did 672 inspections myself. Okay? I am perfectly good doing 120 inspections a year. 120 to 150. I think I did 180 last year. It's too much. Okay? But do the math. If I can make $1,000 an inspection and I do 120, I'm doing okay. I can't afford to live in California on that, by the way. They say now the starter home is $1 million, where I live in San Diego. Okay, so here's a fact. If you don't know this, you do now. Home inspectors are the most trusted person in the entire real estate transaction. Does anybody disagree with me? Why don't people raise their hands? I'll get you. How many want to make more money? Everybody. Okay, so we got some hands moving at least. So home inspectors are the most trusted person in the entire transaction. Realtors, attorneys, appraisers, okay? They're all paid by the sellers. Appraisers paid by the buyer but work for the bank, okay? Termites, typically loan required. Home inspectors are looking out for their client's best interest, all right? And so they help that client make the biggest decision of their life, right? We all on board here? This all makes sense so far? I'm not telling you anything you shouldn't know already, okay? But the transaction depends on you to do your job. Here's the thing. If you're the most trusted person in the transaction, they will listen to you. If you tell them that you need to have a sewer inspection, they will listen to you. If you tell them they need to have an infrared inspection, they will listen to you. Okay? So all of those services that your company offers, they will listen to you. How many of you guys know the average number of services that a carpet cleaning company offers? Okay, anybody ever hired a carpet cleaner in their house? Come on. Yes? All right. How much was the fee? Just somebody spit it out. You read an ad in the paper or a thing that showed up on Google. Carpet cleaning, 3 rooms, $100. How many people have ever only paid the $100? Because what did that carpet cleaner offer you when he showed up? You're going to do the rug. You're going to do the furniture. Yeah. The average carpet cleaning service offers 30 services. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're going to go be that guy that says, I can do this, 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 this. No. But I'm suggesting that you educate your office and the first point of contact that that client has to let them know of available services. There are people who have used services like ISN that automate that if a client didn't order the sewer inspection, an automated email will go out. So the system can recognize that this wasn't offered, send them an automated email saying, 75% of our clients have also elected this. Would you like to add this service? It's sometimes another approach. Had a guy yesterday that was telling me this, like a large percentage of his inspections are booked based on that alone. So those are things that are tools that are out there that can help you that if your office does not successfully close it. I use ACC. I'll be honest, 50% of my sewer inspections are booked by them. Okay? Last year, 72% of all my inspections booked sewer. So 50%, 72. I closed the rest of them. Those were done on site. They might have known about it, but didn't know the value of it. Okay? So again, if our value is expressed as 0, they don't see a value. A lot of times what's hard for them is the cost because, of course, they're spending the most money they've ever spent in their life, and now you're asking them to spend $200 more. When they're going, but this guy's $300. I'm going to tell you guys a fact. How many of you have had the call that says, why so much? Has everybody had that? Is that fair? You guys want to write down the best answer you're going to ever hear? You ready? Everybody's ready. Sure? Okay, that's another. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to tell you now. So when somebody calls you up and says, hey, why are you so expensive? You say, you know what? I really appreciate you asking that question. And if you'll give me a chance to answer it, that I think you'll understand a little bit of how my company is. Okay? So you're going to go through some of the benefits that your company offers. Okay? But what you tell that customer is say, I'm going to ask one thing in return. What's that? I would like you to call them and ask them why they're the cheapest. Do you know the minute you put reason of doubt in a person's mind, see, they went into the conversation with, why are you so expensive? They come out of the conversation with a sad face going, oh yeah, why are they so cheap? How many of you negotiate with the surgeon when you go in for surgery? Anybody? Nobody negotiates with the surgeon? You just pay the price. Because why? It's your life. Why wouldn't you treat that on the thing that you spend the most money on? Are these things sinking in? Okay. So, is there a need for a sewer inspection? It's very clear. People can live in a house with a broken window. They can live in a house with a reverse polarity. A lot of the things that we find on a home inspection, it's not always, it's a very small percentage that it's so critical that the value of what's wrong exceeds the, like it might be $10,000, $20,000, let's say, or $5,000, but it's not always a reason to cancel escrow. Because you can live in a house with a broken window. Can you live in a house with a broken sewer? But we've had that hole in our roof for 20 years and it's never leaked. I've had that. I had a hole this big in the roof and the people said right in front of everybody, but it doesn't leak. Okay. So let's say that a sewer, this is just AI. What's it cost to replace a sewer? This is a recent, I just pulled it up, $3,000 to $7,000. I've had homes, I had one that I'm going to show you a picture of later that is nearing $100,000. Okay? Now granted, it was a big house. So we identify visual conditions, but what about the unseen? Well, that's the thing. This has been unseen. Well, if I'm 29 years in this business, it's been unseen until 11 years ago. I didn't realize the importance of it until I started doing it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the things that we see. It's like if you take 20 years of age and older, 70% of the sewers have problems. That's a significant amount, okay? 15 minutes of work, 25 to 40% increase in revenue. Obviously can save them thousands. So it goes back to what is the purpose of it? They want to negotiate the transaction. Once they have knowledge. So will my agents go for it? So I'm going to tell you, that was a big backlash. I had agents actually telling me, don't offer this. Who do we work for? Who do we really work for? Agent. So there's what's called a happy medium. You got to figure it out. How do you go forward with this without impacting your business? What I tell the agents is this. I find that I must educate the agent for them to understand. So you know how I utilize the surgery and the doctor, the diagnostic and the surgery with the plumber? With the realtor, we have to realize that for everything of them, it's amount of work. Most agents are lazy. They don't want more work, okay? But what an agent doesn't want is an unhappy client. So sometimes presenting the case of, let's say this house closes and we don't do the sewer because you didn't want me to recommend it because it cost them $200, $300 more, okay? Why all of a sudden, by the way, is an agent concerned about them spending $200 or $300 more when, before they buy a house, what do? They go get qualified, right? How much can I afford? I can afford $600,000. How expensive a house? What does the normal agent do? They show them you can afford 6. They show them a 400 because they know they're not going to buy it. They show them a 525 and they show them their dream at 600, 595. They know they qualify for 595, 600. They know that what they're doing. They're strategic. They're sales. Okay? But I tell an agent, I say, here's the scenario. Let's say they close on this and the sewer backs up. Who do they blame? Not just the inspector.
The realtor gets first.
Yeah, they get the first phone call.
Yeah.
Who do they hate? Everyone. They hate the termite guy. He had nothing to do with it.
Yep.
Okay? So they start with the agent. They hate the inspector. They hate all these people because they were all involved in a transaction of a horror story that cost them $10,000 to fix. So when I educate an agent that, here's the thing. If a failure in the sewer is found during the home inspection, the sellers are going to fix it. Well, no, they don't always. No. They may not fix the broken window, but they will fix the sewer. What happens if the buyer cancels transaction? In the majority of all states in the U.S., the seller is now required to what? How many buyers buy a house with a broken sewer? Okay, you bought a house with a broken window, but you're going, that's $200. You're not going to buy a house with a broken sewer because this is our throne. How many of you guys enjoy using public bathrooms? No. How many of you have held it an extra half hour, an hour, just to go home to your own bathroom? We prize those. We prize the privacy. We prize the cleanliness. So when you think about all those factors, they're a big thing. This is just an education for the agents. It's helping them understand that your job as an agent, you don't want to say it like that, but the goal of any real estate transaction is success, happiness. Let me show you what happens when they're not happy. So broken sewer is not a negotiation. It's going to likely become a requirement of sale. If the buyer cancels, they're going to have to disclose it. So finding the sewer, fixing the sewer is going to be often part of that transaction. All right, so if anybody's out of the Vegas area, this is my sister. Okay, she's in the top 3% agent. She's a go-getter. When I started in this, I called her and I said, tell me what you think. I want to start in the sewer because I think it's a huge opportunity for home inspectors. She said, well, I just happen to have some information. She'll recommend every one of her clients get every and all inspections. She has 0 lawsuits. Okay? So this is a 1974 townhouse. This is what after they closed escrow. How many of you would be happy with that? That's okay. Do you think this route started inside the house? Where did it start? Yeah. Yeah. So how are you going to know that? You flush. How many of you drop wads in the toilet before you flush it? Do you want me to say it like I really mean it? How many of you really use that toilet when you're there? I mean, that's the beauty of our job. We have them available. Our jobs. Imagine the guy who has to work out in the desert, you know. The lineman isn't so lucky, you know, sometimes. But this started outside. To find this out after you close escrow, why does my sister know about it? Who's the first person to get the phone call? The agent. So had a sewer inspection been done, they would have identified this. How about that? What color is the water? Any guesses? But no, any guess what the brown color is from? You think so? Anything else? Oh, it's coffee. Yes, coffee. Let's go with coffee. Well, if you read the story, it smells really bad. Okay? So this is getting backed up. So, you know, you imagine with a 4-inch sewer lateral, you guys flush a toilet and you run the shower, you check the hot, you check the cold, you check the sink, you check the cold. That 4-inch lateral, 50 feet away, let's say it's got a block or a 80% block starts to back up. By the time you're at the next bathroom, it's gone. So you're not going to see this. It's the unseen that causes the problems. And of course, it's the result. After they closed escrow, grandma was living there on stool softeners, never had a problem. 80 years, never had a problem with the house. All of a sudden, the family of 4 goes in and some fiber. Nothing's. So think about this. In your business, How many of these homes that you inspect fall into this category? 20 years old, brand new clean out. Why would that be important? What does it mean to you if you show up at an older house with a new clean out? That's one. They've had issues. Yes. And if there's no clean out outside or that it's buried, they've always been required, but they get buried. What's the perception of a plumber? What's the top edge when the pant's down a little low? What's that called? Plumber's crack. They got tired of seeing the plumber's crack, and the plumber says, I can install a clean out at the front for XYZ. Okay? So now I don't have to come in your house anymore to clear this out. Every 2 to 3 months, there's a couple of us, this guy, he don't have to go to the place where we go get a haircut, okay, so often. But let's say every 2 to 3 months, we got to go get our hair trimmed. Got to look good, right? Well, what happens with a sewer? They root it. What happens? It comes back. So how many of you have heard that? Well, we just cleaned it. We rooted it. You did not fix it. You cut the hair. It's coming back. So if you see a new clean out, you know they've had problems. Big opportunity to sell sewer inspections on. Over 20 years old, you know the biggest problem is, most cases throughout the U.S., the homeowner is responsible all the way to the city connection. It's the trash truck. Every week, trash truck comes down, they pick up the can, it creates a lot of compression on the road. When they build a community, they put in the infrastructure, which is the sewer. They run a lower lateral connection to the property line. Okay? And then when they build the house 2 years later, they connect to that pipe. Sometimes they're different types of pipe, and that's where that vibration's occurring. It separates those pipes. I'll show you examples of that. Okay? Trees. So how many would like to make more money? Don't fall asleep on me. Raise your hand. Wave it like you just don't care. So plumbers are charging between $200 and $500 for sewer. Okay? Remember, you're the most trusted person. They'll listen to you. Okay? Make sure the house is an opportunity. If your office hasn't pre-sold it, they've told them about it. If they didn't tell them about it, get a new office. Do your regular home inspection. You've built trust. Everybody know where they start to trust you? It's about 10, 15 minutes into the inspection. You're quiet as hell because you're trying to lose them. But they've seen that you know a thing or two. You're doing your inspection, and they're smiling. Now they go on to doing what they want to do. Will that couch fit? Will that TV fit? Will my car fit in the garage? You say, by the way, guys, I know my office told you about the sewer. Is that something you want to do today? You don't need to let me know now, but I'm going to highly recommend you get this done before you close escrow. See that tree that's out in the front? It looks like your main lateral line's running right there, or you got a 40-year-old house. None of these were designed for, this isn't designed to be a lifetime, okay? So most guys over 50, or women, will understand the colonoscopy aspect. They know that our potential for colon cancer is a lot higher the older we get. So they want to stick a camera up our butt so they can see if there's anything wrong. So that's my analogy. I use that often. We want to see if your intestines are good for the house, because if there's a problem, you want to know, right? So I use the following. So I used to be $350. I charge $400 for my inspections, but I do it for half price if they do it at the time of home inspection. I don't care what that number may be. If your plumbers are charging $300, you want to come in $25 less. Okay? So if they're charging $300, charge $550. And then do it for half price at the time of the home inspection. This is the easiest sales pitch ever, is we charge this, we will do it for this, at the time of home inspection. Now the reason why is because you're going to get agents who will call you and say, I need a sewer inspection only. Maybe the plumbers can't get out there, or you have a better camera than them, you know? Maybe they have the Alibaba special, okay? And you have a great one. They like your presentation better. I get those calls, but I don't want to go out the door for $200. But I'd like to add that. Now keep in mind, for me, when I get a home over 4,000 square feet, that fee doubles. Sometimes triples and quadruples. Okay? So the average...
Why?
What's that?
Why are you quadrupling
Because...
like a 4,000 square foot house?
So most of our 4,000 square foot homes are on larger property. So I live in North San Diego.
Okay.
I am near a community called Rancho Santa Fe. It is one of the highest zip code in the United States.
All right.
So you're sometimes $2,000 a foot.
Gotcha.
And so they're on 5 acres. I've got to do 2 or 3 runs.
Got it. Now, all right.
So Rancho Santa Fe has sewer, but they have 2 or 3 laterals that I have to go through. So you guys are going to answer this question. Time equals?
Money.
So along with this, do you do a written report too?
Yes. So I use my standard, and I'm going to go through this later, but basically my standard home inspection, I add photos and a paragraph in my inspection report. Now I do a video. So I utilize ISN, okay? And so I take the video out of my computer and I upload it to ISN as an attachment. I rename it Sewer Scan, and it has the date and everything that it was done. And then the photos of the problems are put into my report. That's it. I keep it simple. I don't embed a video into my report. It's 80 megabyte, you know. So $200 add-on and an average inspection in the United States currently right now is around $530. Okay? So if you're under that, you're below the average. That's the average inspection fee in the US right now. That is direct from porch. Okay? People buy out of fear of what? Fear that if they don't do this, we've explained it as a colonoscopy, we want to find polyps, find anything that could be cancerous to your purchasing decision. If they don't do it, see the half price, if you think about the whole marketing thing is I do it for half price at the time of inspection, and I say, you don't have to use me. You can call a plumber. If you got a family member that's a plumber, these are the winners, by the way. If you got a family member that's a plumber, maybe he works for beer, I don't know. But yes, okay, you're reading into this. This is what buyers do. I tell them the same thing, but I say, you don't have to use me. You can use anybody you want. I already know it's going to cost more because I already told them I do it for half price. Now they're worried it's going to cost more. And what's the agent? The agent is L.A. They don't want to come back. They don't want to come back for another appointment. When you utilize the term that the agent doesn't want to do more than they have to, they want one call, a guy that can do everything. Hands down, ancillary services will change your life. If you're not doing them or not doing enough of them, why do you think my entire company is focused around ancillary services for inspectors? Because I know that you can change your business, double your fee. So, homeowner is responsible all the way out to the city connection. There are areas of, like Canada, for example, might have 100 feet. They might have the property line. There are some areas that may have a property line, but for the most part, as a general rule of thumb, most areas all the way out. I have now seen, for the first time in California, I have one primary city, the city of Huntington Beach, California, Surf City, USA, has agreed and accepted verbally on their website that they will accept any tree root problem and they will take ownership of the sewer. They will repair it and fix it. I have the city of Santa Ana that's now followed that. You have to prove it first. So what do you need to prove? You need the colonoscopy. So I have 2 cities. And then we have a number of cities that actually require a sewer inspection prior to the close of escrow now. So anyways, so the responsibility, they say this is public, but it's the public side of the lateral. Now, whereas an electric meter, you're responsible after the meter. A water meter, you're responsible after the meter. but the sewer has no meter. You're responsible at the city connection. Do you know what the cost is to repair this point of the line? Why do you think lining companies have come so far? Because sewer lateral lining is robotic. It doesn't require digging up the street. Because the street ends up starting at around $10,000. All right, so cleanouts.
Can you go back to the previous?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it.
You got it. So cleanouts. Common question. I can't find one. I don't have one. Okay? Guess what, guys? I'm going to tell you something that is hard for some people when they first think about this, is that there's no clean out. Okay? I'm okay with that. If I can't do a sewer inspection, I don't have to get every job. I want all of them that I can do. I don't pull toilets, which is the only other way other than going through the roof, okay, to do these. I want to get everyone I can. But if there is no clean out at the house, that is what? It is a condition. Do you know that sewer cleanouts are required to be accessible? If they're buried, they're not accessible. Okay? Tree roots, bad. Okay? Now, to do this, you need to have a, okay? So I'm going to go through some basics for you to understand. Here's the thing to understand. No customer is ever going to call you and say, what camera do you have? I only use guys who use rigid. No, that's never going to happen. Okay? Nobody's going to call you and say, what kind of infrared camera do you have? They're not going to ask how many pixels. They're not going to ask if you have an HD. They're not going to ask if you have a locator or a sonde because they don't know any of this. So let's get that out of the way. What's that mean? Everything you need to do a home inspection, you can buy at a store called Harbor Freight. Okay? How many of you buy all your home inspection tools at Harbor Freight? Everybody's probably got one or two things, you know? None. It's fine, Dave. But you might have one or two things, you know? But nobody goes out and says, yeah, 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 I'm that guy. No, they don't do that. So what does that mean? This is not a cheap tool. When I got in the business, I spent $1,000 on all of my tools. In 1996, that was everything. My laptop was $5,000, however. I was doing computerized printed reports in 1996. Narrative. So you can go on Amazon. You know, you can buy a sewer camera for $300. I looked it up last night. There's ones with a sonde, locator, and everything for $800. There are cameras, these Chinese products have come in, Amazon sells them, and you can get these things $600, $800. You also have a choice of what kind of car you drive to your job. You have a choice of what kind of tools you wear at your job. So the key thing to know is that, as I said, the return on investment on a sewer camera is very high. You can also pick the job you want. Like I said, rigid, a good camera from them is $15,000. They are the #1 sewer camera on the market. Okay? Depends which one you have. But their top system, they're in the $15,000 mark. So the reality is, if that's what you want, you can go out there and get that. You can also show up with the other one. The customer only sees the end result, and it's how you present yourself, which is the confidence is key. I'm going to tell you some of the key factors with a sewer camera to consider. Okay? So you pick the one that's the best one for your business. Everybody drives different cars. Some people want a truck. I have a Pro City, Dodge Pro City. They don't make them anymore. All those mini microvans, we were just talking about it. They don't make them anymore. That was my favorite car to drive. I get good gas mileage and I can hold all my tools. And they're enclosed instead of an open bed that people steal. So you find the camera. What car will fit? That was one of my old cars. I used to drive a Kia Soul. It was fine. Huh?
They're not making them. That's what we use for all our guys. But yeah, they're not making
So that was jam-packed. The Pro City was bigger. I'm going to the Maverick is what I'm going to go to now because it's 42 miles a gallon. I just got to put a shell on it. So, but what size camera do you have? What can you fit in your car? You're obviously not going to put something that takes up the entire back seat. So those are things you got to think of, okay? You also have got to think, how big of a camera do I need? There are cases for 200-foot cameras, okay? For example, I have a guy in Colorado. He started doing these, and I need a 200-foot. Why is that? Because I can't get the other cleanouts. When I was telling you we have 2 or 3 laterals, there's a cleanout on the property. Nobody's going to dig 5 feet of snow to find it. That's a damn good reason. So you've got to decide, what it is that you need for your business. I had a guy yesterday, he says that 90%, 95% of his runs are 70 feet and lower. Yeah. So is 100-foot good enough? I'm going to tell you some of the rules so you know, so you can make that decision. Okay? Code requires no more than 100 feet between cleanouts. So if we have 100 feet, we ran a 100-foot camera through that line and we do not, you will see the cleanout. I mean, you're 80 feet down. The only other reason for a riser is a cleanout. You don't see one. What is that? It's a reportable condition. We don't have a cleanout. You need to have a cleanout. We did the sewer lateral. You don't have another cleanout. What does the buyer want to do? Renegotiate the transaction. You gave them another defect in that system. Okay? It's been there forever. Yeah. So, anyways, these are examples of 200-foot, cameras on the market. They're bigger. They're bulkier. So you got to, if you're in that area, you got to make sure you have the wherewithal to haul it around. All right, 2 types of camera heads. There's a fixed camera that might have some of them have the self-leveling, which is nice. And then there's a pan and tilt, okay? In my business, I realized that what I want to do is produce the best picture and image that I can for my clients. So sometimes I found for me that if I'm this far away and the problem is seen versus I can get up and look right at it and see the water pouring out of the pipe, that was more important to me. So I chose a pan and tilt, okay? They range in the 5,000 and up. So you get people, oh, well, I could buy one on Amazon. You sure can, and you should, if that's what your business is. The good news is that if you think about this, I told you 72% of my transactions have added sewer. Think about your business and take 50%, 25% of your transactions will do sewer. Multiply it by whatever your market will bear, $200 or whatever, and how much revenue. Is there enough money in sewer inspections? There is. You can buy the rigid system if you want at 15 grand. You can afford it, okay? But if you're charging $25 for infrared inspections, do you go out and buy the $5,000 or $10,000 infrared camera? You're never going to pay for it, ever. But no matter what you choose, your sewer inspection will pay for whatever camera that you want to have, whatever vehicle you want to drive. Okay, you're going to have to provide a recording. Okay, so no matter what equipment you buy, you're going to need some way to record. You're going to need some way, I recommend highly. So locator is always a big question. Do I need it? My statement is the only reason for a locator is marketing for the listing agent. That's the only person who ever asks me to locate a problem. Because, they didn't pay for me. They want me to work for them. I know this. So I have to make a decision. Do I like them? Do I ever want to work for them? And if I do, and they're a big player, yeah, let me see if I can try and locate that for you. That's the only reason I have a locator. It is done on less than 10% of my transactions, ever. But what you do need to have is a distance on your camera. You need to know how far you are. We know that the entry point was done at this point. We came in at the front of the house, the rear of the house, the side of the house, the garage. At 18 feet in, we had this brain inside the pipe, okay? By the way, you'll see the repair of this, okay? This was $2,500 to repair this. Yes. So again, you're working for the listing agent when you're trying to locate and you start spray painting. You can go down, pick up the landscape flags at Lowe's. Those are easy. What happens when you say it's right there and it's over here? Yeah, you just worked for nothing for the listing agent and they dug where you told them to dig and it was 4 feet away. I'm going to tell you this. Locate is not guaranteed. It is not that accurate. It's kind of close. Okay? So my recommendation is, if you ever do a locate, you say, use words like approximate, and I'd put it in my report that we put a flag, a landscape flag, within a proximity of where that is. It's going to be hard for them to hit you on that. It is always recommended at that point that you advise and put it in your report that the seller to retain someone for actual confirmation of that location. Okay? We do not want to put our responsibility or our pocketbook on something that absolutely we don't know. Let them do that. Just to give you an idea, the sewer lateral is about 6 feet down at the curb. And the sewer at the street is typically 10 to 12 feet down. So if you're off 3 feet, that's a lot of dirt. Depth, again, less than 10% of the time do I do a locate. And when I do, it's because I'm interested in the listing agent. They sell a lot of big properties, and I want to impress on them because it's my marketing opportunity on that inspection. So a lot of them are battery today. They can run remote. If you buy one that's not battery, make sure you have a big-ass extension cord and a generator if the power's out. So this is kind of how we come up with some of those numbers. Like a 30-year-old home. Let's say that inspection, $450 at the time. I was $350, half price if you do it at the time of inspection, 38%. People ask me, how do you put it in your contract? I add a line item. Sewer scan fee. So your sewer inspection is the same as your home inspection. It's everything you can see at a given date and time. Agreed? So I'm okay with the verbiage that's in the contract and adding a single line to that saying, this is my additional ancillary service. The only ancillary that I do that I add a separate contract for is pools and spas. Okay? So these are some examples. Do I have any questions so far? You guys feeling it? You get it? We'll go through some more. We'll hit the marketing. We'll hit questions. Think of what you might have, like challenges that you've had in your business for doing this stuff, because that's what really today's about. So when you're running down, you're going to see things. We're 20 feet in. We can see that we've got this cluster of vegetation. Okay? If their idea of a repair is a rooting service, that's a haircut. It's going to come right back. Okay? This will never fix itself. What do you think that is right there? Now this is glue. They over-glued the joints. And what is that glue? This is ABS. And then you have glue going through. So they probably did a repair. And then you start seeing this excess glue coming through the inside. The problem is that glue can be what catches debris, toilet paper, high fiber children deposits. 1960s. So this is a belly. It might be hard to see, but basically you're going down a pipe and you get a low point, or you get an offset that's causing a backup in the pipe. This is a transition on the left here where you're going into a clay. The clay diameter of a pipe is separate than an ABS or PVC or SDR. those are all different diameters. And what happens is when they try and put a coupling, a lot of times they'll use that rubber one with the clamps on it, and they don't have it down tight enough. You get roots. This was like a new home. I think it's like a big nail or something going down there. I mean, I've had toys in these things. I had an adult diaper, got flushed down. So this is that picture of that root earlier, and this is the picture after. So they did a liner, a stint, and an epoxy repair on that pipe.
So that's different from a SIP, right? Or is that the same thing as that?
So they put, basically the first thing they do is root it.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, they can jet it. And they got to see where the breach is. Then they run like a stint, which is basically a short section of flexible. They stick it in with a machine, and then it basically blows a balloon, and then it sets the epoxy, and then they pull right out. And then they can get in there and grind it if it's got any rough edges or something like that. But
That sounds better than a rubber SIP.
yeah.
I'm just saying. That's all
Well, this was below a curb, so it would have been a pretty extensive dig. 6 feet down. This is easier to do, but this was $2,500 for this repair. All right, so this is the definition of the image. Again, the customer is never going to necessarily ask for it. I use an HD camera. When you can see the microflies, when you can see the offsets, the root growth, this is all that's open on there. That's got like 2-inch hole maybe. So this is what the difference on HD imaging looks like, okay? You're going to get a far superior picture. When you're underwater, most often when you're going down that pipe, you'll see it's all murky, So if you've run a lot of water on the inspection, sometimes it'll clear some of that out. We do these at the end. So it's the last thing I do is the sewer lateral. This is scale. So when you're going down the lines, you get excessive scale. So cast iron, it's like skin in only one way. It exfoliates, but it don't come back. You're bringing that thinner and thinner and thinner. So you might go from a 1/4 inch, and then now it's getting a layer off and a layer off. How long does that last? The water is a big factor. So you hydrojet, you're taking off a layer, but you get that pipe almost in a nice, good condition. I always recommend after anybody does a jet or any kind of service, keep in mind there's the rooting, it's a grind. You got jetting, which is water that basically comes backwards and it spins through and it cuts the roots. Like they can cut steel with water, okay? So once they do that, but it's a good idea to run the camera through. There's also what's called chain flail. Oh my God, it'll destroy the pipe. So they do a chain, like when they break out chimneys, they run a chain, it breaks the liner, then they can put a new liner in. Well, same thing with pipe. They do this when they got difficult pipes, and they run this machine with a drill bit, and it's got chains that are just ripping the inside. I have been through a sewer after I did the initial inspection, had a full block. The guy did a chain flail. I actually have the paperwork, and it said everything's good. And I think they were up to, I don't know, $10,000 in repairs or something like that on this property. It was a 4-unit. And then I went through, the agent didn't trust the company because the seller did it. So then they hired me to come back, and I ran through it, and the whole pipe was gone. I was looking at dirt. So it was like a gutter. Now, the whole pipe gone. So this is clay. This particular house is pretty funny. Because I did this house, and this was a real estate agent. Now get this, 900 square feet. Okay, it's a block from the beach. $2 million. 900 square feet, 1930 house or something, 1940. But $2 million, this agent was buying this. She gave me a whole video testimonial too that I've got on my website somewhere. But I told her when I went down the pipe, you're looking at dirt. That's dirt on the top. The whole pipe's gone, it's clay. So I said, the pipe's gone, and then they put a clean out in, and they just busted a hole and put concrete on top. That was their idea of, you know, putting a clean out in. I said, but they broke the whole pipe, and, you know, that it was cracked all the way around, and then you see growth coming in the side. So the agent backed out of escrow on this. Okay, she didn't buy the house. The agent, because the listing side refused to do a repair. Okay, so 2 years later, they rented the house for 2 years. Okay, and goes up for sale 2 years later. Guess who got hired to do this house? Totally different agent. Nobody knew anything. The disclosure said, "Oh, we had a problem 2 years ago. Haven't had a problem since." They didn't say anything else. Listing agent showed up. He remembered me. You know that? You ever seen that like, oh, moment? It was one of those. All of a sudden, well, yes, they did have problems. He starts blabbing at this point because he knows that I've got my camera out and I'm about to go through and tell them something. And I told them, I said, by the way, we had problems on this house years ago, so we'll see if they did any repairs. And of course, had done nothing. $8,000 later, he had to line this and fix this whole pipe. So that's why it goes back to what I said in the beginning, is that you either make a choice, you know, you can back out of a house, but the seller's going to fix it no matter what. So they just need to come to terms with that, because they're going to be stuck with it, because no buyer's going to go in because they know they got no problems. And now, let's say that the seller, listing agent, does not disclose this. Knowing. What happens? Lawsuit. Somebody knows. They're neighbors. Do you think your neighbor cares about you after you moved out? No. You abandoned them. They're friends with the new people. By the way, we used to see plumbing trucks here all the time. So, not uncommon. You know, that's dirt. The whole pipe's gone. You know, you can see the cracks at the top. So, just more examples you go through. When you start getting heavy scale in the lines, roots, these are all things that are going to impact this house. So, hopefully the click works here. So, I'm going to demonstrate to you the difference between a single camera looking forward. You buy that on Amazon, it was $500. Great deal. No customer's ever going to call me and ask me what kind of camera I got. So I'm going to use the same camera, but I'm going to leave it in a forward focus mode only. And then I'm going to show you the difference that pan and tilt makes for me. Okay? So we're starting to go down a line. And the first thing you're going to notice, we're going to hit water. This is what a regular camera is going to see. You go in, that's it. It's real murky. There's a Loch Ness Monster down there. Okay? So any camera that's looking one way, you hit an elbow, the only thing you see is the elbow, the sweep. Okay? So now let's look at it with a pan and tilt and the difference, that if you can rotate your camera head, what can you see? What's caused that problem? We don't know. We just know there's a backup. Now you're protected no matter what camera, because you're saying you got a problem, but you don't have an answer. So let's go down. Can you see that pipe's completely separated? Now we can't see that because the camera, when you hit the other camera and you make the turn, you hit this pipe. Your camera is underwater. All you're doing is hitting that pipe. You cannot go any further. So then you're going to state, and again, liability-wise, you're protected. Because you said there is a backup, we were unable to proceed past 5 feet or 3 feet or whatever it is into the line, and you charge your fee and you move on. The difference is I come back and I can say, well, your pipe is separated. This is not a simple fix, okay? When your pipe has gone that far. So that's the difference. You decide, again, your liability should be good in this situation, either way. I have situations where I had a pipe separated, and I actually have a video of it where the camera goes down and I stop and I rotate the camera and I'm watching the water pour into the ground. That's sewage, by the way, going to the ground. So being able to get up and close, cracked pipes. I think we have a crack pipe too. Those that care about crack pipes. There's some more crack pipes. So
Missing pipe going into clay right there on your left-hand side?
the left it's gone.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, it's just gone. It's a gutter. So here's a liner, like a coating, where they clean the pipe, then they come back and they'll put a coating in there. Usually they use a liner, but there's guys that will come through and then they run a brush with this epoxy trying to reline it. But it's almost impossible to get that pipe dry because you have to kind of blow it out, clear it before you can ever apply a painted liner like that. And look what happens. It's epoxy, but you can see it didn't work. So how many of you guys ever seen like pools where they paint the pool? Stupidest thing. Not just peel. Stick your hand in there. Your hand will be white. You'll rub it in milk. So the painted pools seem like a great idea, low cost. This is the solution. What does the word say? Buy nice or buy, it rhymes with it. Twice, yes. So you do some of these things, do the research into what you're investing in. If you have a pool, plaster, nothing beats it. There are some fiberglass types of plaster that can make a strong bond, that can handle the sun a little bit better. Epoxy, what is this going to do? Problem is, most people in these situations, they might be old, not know, elderly, and the guy says, we can fix it. Okay, it's cheaper. So I showed you that pipe that was separated. How many of you guys ever heard of the guy, T. Boone Pickens? Anybody ever heard that name? What was he? Oil. He was oil. How do they say it in Texas? Oil. And very wealthy guy. So one of his wives owns a very high-end development in San Diego. Okay, so this is that's the house. Just so you know, that house is it's about 7,000 square feet, 8,000, and it was $14 million. Okay, she bought this house for about 6, 7. So here's the deal: she owns the entire community. She owns the golf course, the club, but there's, 100-something homes in there, and they're all very high end. And when somebody's lived there 15, 20 years, these are like 25 years old, she buys the dilapidated ones, fixes them up, spends millions, and then sells it for a lot more, okay? So this particular house, they finished it up, all the remodel. They hired an inspector, It's a very well-known inspector in San Diego, okay? He's been around longer than me, okay? This agent, very known agent. He's one of the tops, like sells a lot of high-end stuff. And that inspector did not do sewer inspections. Okay? What did I find? I found a separated sewer. He didn't do sewer inspections. He didn't offer it. Money was not the issue. They would have paid everything. Okay? He didn't apparently do enough of a pool inspection, or he didn't instill enough confidence because they hired an outside pool company to do the pool inspection. Okay? So the key that what I'm saying is that there was an inspector who did a job but didn't offer services, and then some of the services that he did, he didn't do the level that was needed. So I came, sewer, found completely separated. The pool, this is the skimmer. When I showed up, I was listening to the fill valve was on the entire time. So I do advanced pool inspections. I charge $500 for a pool inspection, just to give you guys an idea. But I do leak detection and chemistry analysis and all that stuff. The pool guy did not catch the fact that the pool was leaking. He didn't second guess the fact that the pool fill valve was running. There was a lot of things that weren't caught. The home inspector didn't catch the fact that the sewer, because he didn't offer the service. So the end result is, I'm his new inspector. I now do probably 1 to 2 high-end jobs a month for this agent. And so this is an example. This is a house. This is my highest inspection fee I've ever made. I did that last month. How many of you guys would appreciate that? Anybody done anything like that high? $8,600 in one home. That was 12 hours of my life with my other inspector. I started at 8 in the morning. I finished at 8 at night. But you can see this is the breakdown of ancillary service and the changes and the things that half this fee was ancillary. And so what I'm trying to help you guys understand is that I can change your life. You can change your life. You have to be willing to invest. Do you guys know the difference between invest and expense? We talked about this. Investment yields a return. So when you spend money, you go to a very expensive dinner, maybe you'll have a good night. Maybe it was a real good investment. But when I look in business, a lot of people come by and say, that's expensive. Well, no. Can it generate money? My wife started a business, many, many years ago. She's an esthetician. Maybe the guys don't know what that is, but the women will. She's a facialist. And she calls me and she says, I want to buy this piece of equipment. I said, what is it? She says, it's $5,000. It exfoliates the skin. Okay, oh, you mean it's a jetter? Sucks off layers of skin. So what it does is it injects the cream or whatever they're putting stuff in their face. You know this stuff?
Yes, Diamond Glove.
Okay.
It takes everything out and it puts everything good in.
Yes. So I said, well, what's the difference for your business? She said, well, I charge, in her case, it was $80 for a facial. She charges $110. I said, so you're going to make almost 50% more for adding this machine that costs $5,000? Yes. In the years since she bought that, and she's retired now, but the years following, 90% of her clients elected for called Dermasound or whatever that was, this treatment. And so I said, best thing ever. How do you look at your business? Are you the basics? Are you just doing the simple inspection because the standards of practice say that? Or do you go beyond the standard? And then if you do go beyond the standard, are you charging for it? My goal is that if you're not charging for it, let's change that. How do you change that when you've been doing it so long? I've been giving away infrared inspections for free forever. You educate yourself. You invest in yourself, and then you take a course that trains you on it. Get certified. Get level 1 or something. I don't know. Get training on sewer inspections, buy better equipment, make an excuse. I don't know. But when you invest in that, now you have a reason for it. So what I did with pools is I said, my pool inspection was $150, okay? So here's the $500 for the pool. I charged $700 for the pool on this one. I had 13 pumps, by the way, on this house's pool. That's the pool right there. So this house is 19,000 square feet. Okay, it's next door. So Melinda Gates' house is next door. The one on the right is Bill Gates' house, Melinda Gates now. That's one of her main houses that she lives in. What's that? Yeah, yeah. And I did the sewer, and that's the sewer at that house. So we had 4 separations of the pipe, and this house was 25 years old. And then here's the sewer. The water's backed up. Lines were offset. I had a full block in the line. And I think they're close to $100,000 because they have to tear out the driveway, and you can't match the driveway. So this house has like a 300, 400-foot driveway. You can't cut the concrete and match it. And then he didn't want to deal with, so I think, but when you're dealing with $19 million for $100,000, the dude's dead who owned this house. That's nothing. It's just an estate. So anyways, that agent, as I said, it was from that other one that I did, a couple years ago or whatever. He now uses me. I've done at least 5 inspections in the $5,000 range for him. So he does very high end. So, when you start making a service, you show a value to your service. For example, I find these problems. And then you're able to do it in an effective way. It doesn't matter what you charge. Do you think this customer ever questioned my fee? He didn't. I do. So the advanced is only $100 difference. So I do $400 for a standard pool, $500 for the advanced, which is leak detection and analysis. So, I don't offer different levels of sewer inspections other than I can go, like the office knows to pull up the Google Earth. If you see, like Zillow will show you property lines, you start seeing they're on an acre, know you're going to be running 2 pools. Unless the house is front loaded, where it's a big backyard, and the house, the street, the sewer. And you can tell, those lids in the street, those are the sewer, they're usually right down the middle of the street. You'll get an idea, but, my philosophy is, I say it's, $200 for a 100-foot run. So if you find that it's large properties, also I get the questions of people saying on septic, well, you don't need to do it on septic. No. They're already getting inspected. No, they're not. They inspect the tank. No septic company, unless they add it, runs a camera through the lateral too. What's that?
No septic company does it right in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're supposed to lay down on the ground, put a glove on, reach in and feel the seal to make sure the tank has not moved,
Separated.
separating the pipe.
Yeah.
And they don't do it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We already have the cameras and we do septic inspections, so we already do that. And we do it because the other guys don't.
Yeah. So you're doing the septic certification?
Obviously, yeah, we're septic certified.
Okay. So, some of the things they're doing is they're running the water, is the...
The other company guys, they don't have the cameras.
So you're going to basically the D box, you're checking the leach field. So yeah. So that's what these guys got to do. There's more to it. Cameras can't make it through, like the leach field has elbows. They're not sweeps. So you can't just run a camera through the leach field easily. You can go to a D box and go to each branch. Problems a lot of times on septic tanks is they're not draining effectively. They've got too much sludge. If it's been more than 3 or 5 years, have they been pumped? So some of the things I do have people, one of the other advantages with the sewer camera that can be used is finding the tank. Sometimes they don't know where the tank is. So if you start at the clean out and you run the camera, you'll know when you get in the tank. It's usually not that far down. And once they get into the tank, they turn on the sonde, and then you can locate.
That's how we do it for D-boxes.
Yeah, yeah, you can just find it from there. So you guys got a real shitty job, man. You got the, dude, this is like walking down Bourbon Street for the smells you guys got to deal with.
Septic guys love doing septics. They hate doing home inspections. The
He
report is,
prefers to do more septic than home.
your
Not
report's
him.
3 to 5.
Some people just like the smell of it, you know?
And he likes how fast.
Nobody's around them.
Those are the same guys that never had the problem with, and when my kids were young, they're 23 and 25, I would judge the blowout on the diaper based on the number of wipes. That was a 10 wiper.
Well, the guy that loves to do it has 5 kids.
He loves it. He's like, dude, honey, go ahead. I got you.
Is this quiet time?
Yeah, I got you. It could be a big blowout. It's no problem. I'm used to this.
His phone in there.
Texted.
He's diving in there.
He dropped his phone in.
Say where the text coming from? He said, yeah, I hit a floater. He said, that's good.
This is serious.
How many of you guys knew this was going to be this much fun? Learn. You know, one of the big things that people used to say to me is they say, Peter, I'm not doing that job because I'm not getting like crap on my hands. I say, do you think I get crap on my hands? You think that I sit there, I mean the funniest thing when you do this is at the end, you thank the agent or the client and you don't let go. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, man. You know where my hands were, right? Oh, you know, that's right away. That's the funniest.
So we
Yeah.
were on an inspection, and we had a source cover,
Yeah.
because we don't do it right now. The reason why I'm here, because we want to do it ourselves.
I wonder why you're here, sir. Because you want to know.
So he knew that we were a little bit squeamish.
Yeah.
So he was done, and then he came over, shake guys.
I like getting them off guard because they don't know. I mean, literally, I'm like a surgeon. I go in, I buy the thickest gloves that you can find. And, you know, I use literally, the camera system I use is just a cable. So there's no spring, there's nothing to clean. Like a lot of times the springs, the only way to clean them is to flex them. You got to put a hose on them and then it goes everywhere. So I just use a wipey. I do that. I take that wipey that I just used to clean it, and then I pull the glove over it, and then I pull the other glove over it, and that's all my stuff. Goes in the trash. It's fine. But I know I'm clean, and sometimes I'll still go wash my hands, but that is my favorite, with the agent especially, but the clients, I go, you know where my hand. So when it comes to marketing, first impressions, instilling confidence in your clients that they can see you. Last impression becomes your marketing agent. I have not marketed my company outside of a website since 2003. I have done maybe 3 office presentations because some of my brokers have asked me, you come in, okay. I'm at a stage where I want to do less, charge more attitude. And I'm capable of doing this because I've literally diversified myself. So how many of you think about investments? Like financially for your retirement stuff, not investing in cameras. So when you invest in your business, you know, in your life and your retirement stages, you're investing in, they tell you, depending on how old you are, some higher risk, some medium, some low risk, and as you age out more, you'll do less risk. You'll reduce the risk. So I look at my life and my business. I own 4 companies, and I invest my time into several of them, and I personally love teaching. There's just no money in it, you know? Yes, thankfully, ISN Porch is good. They pay me to be here. They take care of my travel and stuff, so, but I make more money at home, I'm gonna be honest with you. I do this because I love what I do. Literally, I love to help. Nothing more that when I get a guy that comes to me next year and says, you changed my life, you helped me with this service, you know, those are all things that have been important to me because it means a lot. That's when I say, goosebumps, I'm coming back because I can change people's lives. I'm at a stage where, like I said, 10 to 12 inspections a month, I'm actually a happy guy. I vacation 7 to 10 days a month. Today I bought a mountain property. It's 2 hours from my house. Dropping a pole in the water, going out in the boat, or skiing. That's what I love to do. So I want you to make decisions in your life that will change, impact your future, whatever stage you may be in. If you can get there and prepare for it, how many of you guys are down? Be honest. This year, transactions. Okay? Majority of inspectors in the nation are down. Okay? Honestly speaking, and if you don't know, then there's a reason for using services like ISN. I can show you. Transaction-wise, we're down like 23% transactions. Now, my revenue is not because I've done a lot of high-end. I've changed my focus after high-end so I can get the larger properties. So that's why, yes, I would go do something for that agent. So, you know, those are things to think about, you know, when it comes to the business. So here's some stats on my numbers. You know, when you start, you're not going to have that magic number, you know. I'll show you in 2020, 34% of all my transactions had a sewer lateral inspection. Okay, I'm actually at 72% right now for 2025. So that was the middle of August. So as of right now, I think it's 72%. So those numbers will go up. The more you do it, the more awareness, the more the clients hear you doing it, they understand that they're going to be picking up on this. The agents end up realizing that if we don't do this, it's going to be a problem later, let's get it done. And then when we find the problems, they're happy because they know that that would have been an issue later, like my sister dealt with. Okay? So these are the things to know statistically is these numbers will get better. You might start off with a 10% or 20%. Like I said, my first year, only 6% of my transactions did it. But that number has gone up much more every year. So do the math. If you had 20% of your business did it, today it's more accepted. Keep in mind, in 2015, it wasn't a norm. Home inspectors weren't doing it. So anyways, just 5 years is over 110K of just revenue on myself. So how would that change you? So in this case, I'm showing you my actual stats. This is as a couple weeks ago. 22% down transactions, but then that's my average home inspection fee right now. Okay? And how you get there is by services, you know? So if the economy tanks and hits a COVID or whatever, or the interest rates are so high and the people aren't buying, you have time. So anybody that comes to me and says that I don't have money to spend, you're not thinking. Because as my wife says to me, anything you've ever wanted in life, you found the money. So think about it. If you don't have the cash liquid, there's other ways of accomplishing that. Ask your financial planner. Say, would you invest, take a loan on something that yielded a return immediately? So the perfect storm, 20-plus-year-old house. Honestly, I'm getting condos now, townhouses that do this. I have a community in Orange County, California. It's a retirement community called Laguna Woods, and the association covers all the sewer. But they'll only cover it if they know there's a problem. So now they order it because these condos are $500,000 starting in this retirement. There's $1 million townhouses in there. And they just get it done because the community's 50 years old. There's a lot of trees. So if you have a 20-plus-year-old home, You know the sewer, you got the line, you got a tree, you know you have an opportunity. So that's why I say if it's not sold when I get there and I see a clean out and I see all the cases, I present the horror story. I say, I recommend you do it. You don't have to use me. I just need to know in the next hour so that I can accommodate time-wise. Always do this. Trust me, this is how it works. There's no pressure. Just do your research. What do you think they're doing at that point? Google. They're starting. How much is a sewer inspection? Should I do an inspection? Well, everybody Google your phone. Should I do a sewer inspection? And tell me what the answer is. I mean, if one of you would just do that and tell me what it says, you can voice it. I mean, literally, I want to hear the answers. I'm buying a home. Should I do it? Artificial intelligence will tell you the answer. Artificial intelligence is pretty smart. Does somebody got an answer already? I understand because we're marketing, we're inspectors, but what does artificial intelligence tell you?
Yes, you should generally do a sewer inspection if you're buying a home for every 5 to 10 years for existing.
Ah, do you guys hear what the last part of what he said was?
Strongly considered.
Strongly considered. Anybody else?
Re-service, redo it every 5 to 5, 7 years, 5 to 10 years.
Oh my gosh, this is sounding like a colonoscopy. How many guys are over 50 here? I think the new is 45 now. It's 45. Yeah, how was it? Did they put you to sleep? Now here's the question. When you woke up, was there a candlelit and Barry White playing by any chance? Because I would get that. If I showed up and they had a Barry White CD out, I'm out.
He had some kind of weird music.
He did. Oh, did you walk funny?
With a smile.
I like that.
Did you wake up and ask the nurses to video your last part?
So let me tell you something. So here's the things to really think about, is that based on just artificial intelligence, what happens, how many guys were inspecting in 2007? Anybody in the room? Nobody? All fresh fish in here, huh? All right. Well, 2007, the economy took the shit. And basically what happened was the bank said, we are not loaning on houses. Nobody's going to qualify. Because what happens is before that, did anybody have any real estate in 2007 and found it hard to pay the bills? So the banks basically were giving away money up until then for a signature. You had a good credit score? Yeah. You make $2 million a year? Right on. You're in. We're going to give you a loan. And so then all that was crashing. And then the bank said, now you have to actually qualify for a home. And so real estate tanked. In 2003, a big year for me, 2009, I did 1/3 of what I did in 2003. So what happens between 2003 and 2009? I started thermal imaging in 2005. I saw the economy change. I was down 5% in 2005. I saw the economy changing ahead of it. I watched my numbers religiously. There's nice things about having services and computers and algorithms that will track your business. And if you watch them and manage it, you can make good decisions. So immediately I took money out of the bank, 20 grand, invested in a thermal imaging camera. As I said, thermal imaging is more than 50% of my work now. I leave Saturday for Seattle. I've got 4 days in Seattle. The week after that, I've got 4 days in Phoenix at these large facilities. They pay all my expenses, steak dinner, whatever I want. I have no budget. All my travel, I get paid travel time going to these locations back from this company. This company will spend $750,000 this year with my company. So, I mean, this next year will be over $1 million. So, I'm trying to tell you that this $20,000 investment has led to those things. So think about tools and say, even when times might be tough, it makes sense to invest in it. So that's what I'm trying to lead to. Couple things to know. There are cities now that are requiring it. I'm aware in New York, there's a city, because I know some of the guys up in Niagara area were telling me that it's now required. They have to do an inspection on real estate transfer. Richmond, California requires it. Here's another one, Sausalito. It says that when remodeling or sale of any building is proposed, existing sewer laterals shall be inspected. So now it's a requirement. The reason why is they force the seller to do the repair. So I think there's 13 cities in California that require it now. None in Southern California. Ventura County is the furthest south that requires it. So how do I present it? I take a video. I use VLC software. I watch the video. It's easy to extract photos out of a video. I take those photos and I put them in my inspection report. I upload the video to ISN so that they have access to it. From ISN, the agent can forward it to their plumber. He can pull the video up. The first thing when the seller gets the notification that we need you to repair this or take care of it, the first thing that the agent, the plumbing company wants to see the video we get.
Do they ever want to go out? Like,
They will need to. They're going to give an initial estimate based on the conditions. And most contractors have a caveat in their contract that says, well, if we run into a boulder or an unforeseen, it's going to be extra. So they're covered. Before they give the final estimate, they're going to need to run their own camera, and I always want them to. I don't want them to base it on mine. Sometimes I get a block. I can't get any further. They're going to have to do it anyways. Okay? Mine is I write a paragraph, and I have the photos, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, sometimes 12 photos in my inspection report. It's about the most I've had was 12 photos. But that's when I got a really bad sewer and I got through it all and I was able to get some good stuff. You can also put it on a thumb drive. If you have multiple inspectors, if they're on a percentage basis, so I had somebody, I don't know if you're in this class, but yesterday was telling me that that none of their inspectors want to do it. Like, you kidding me? Or that lady, she also said that they have a bunch of inspectors and they do them. They have one person that goes out. To me, my philosophy is I want to work less, make more. Anybody disagree with that? I'd rather do one a day, $1,000, be home at 1 o'clock. Hey, honey, I'm home. No, go back to work.
My son said yesterday. He called me. He was done at 1:30 yesterday afternoon. Did 3 sewer fills.
Yeah, that's the best.
I set up in my room last night and watched him. He's only 21 years old. He knows what he's doing. He just doesn't trust himself yet.
It's okay. It's okay.
Put the client, make the, you know what I mean? But yeah, he did 3 sewer scopes
Yep.
yesterday.
So this was one of the guys, he had 4 guys. He says, all of my guys love it because it's so easy and they get a raise. So if they're on percentage or they make, a portion of that fee, if they are doing the sewer inspections, they got a raise. As I said, 15 to 30 minutes, and if it was $200 and they're getting half or a third or whatever, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good raise. So as I said, my company, the training we do is free. If you're buying the camera from us, our training's free. I've trained probably, 700, 800 inspectors. There's other training companies. You go to where you feel best, just like the camera. You buy the one that works for you. But whatever you do, do it. Make the change, make more money. For those who question, does it make sense? I told you what I charge. What will the market bear in your area? Okay? So, give you an example. If you finance $10,000, which would be a high-end sewer camera, okay? We're talking Mercedes. One sewer inspection will pay for it. We talk about ancillary service. How many of you guys have thought about things like chimney inspections? So the camera I chose doubles as a chimney camera. So pan and tilt, because your chimneys, that sewer's a lot bigger. we need to see all around. Well, when you have a pan and tilt, you can see a 10-inch, 14-inch flue. And so that's the key thing, whereas a standard sewer camera may not see that. So there's other things that you can double up. And if some homes, they might only have one sewer, but they might have 2 fireplaces, you get the same fee on a chimney. Do you guys know the difference between a level 1 and a level 2 and a level 3 chimney inspection? You guys are all doing a level 1 chimney inspection as part of your service. A level 1 is a visible inspection of your firebox, your chimney, your outside, your spark arrestor. The only difference between a level 1 and a level 2 chimney inspection is running a camera up the flue. You can also run it down. That's the only difference. So we talked about really one service, but we also expanded into how ancillary is so important and that it can change. And when you can capture one home inspection, one sewer that can pay for a nice piece of equipment, do you have to buy the $300 sewer camera?
Do you have to be certified at level 2?
Yes.
We do a level 1, but no, it's just,
Everybody does a level 1.
yeah, we recommend, like, Mr. Smokes to Skag or somebody in the area.
Yeah.
But they're all, guys that do it, that are booked up for.
Yeah, they're-
Okay, so now you're coming up with the true problem in the industry. So I also train the chimney industry. I train chimney inspectors, and I train them on thermal imaging. And they had the same attitude as the plumbers. I had like 50 guys in a class, and I said, how many of you guys have a problem with home inspectors doing level 2 chimney inspections? They all grumbled and said no. And I said, I'm going to educate you guys on your business. Do you make money on level 2s, or do you make money on replacing chimneys? What would you rather do? Well, I want to replace the chimney, damn it. Okay.
That's how we got into septic and termite. I went
Yeah.
to both of those guys. I said,
Yeah.
you don't make that much money to inspections, but I'll get you all the repairs.
Yeah, so what you do is if you go to a chimney guy and you said, listen, I can't do repairs, but you do repairs. How about you, when you're backed up 30 days, start sending me your level 2? So remember what AI said about sewer inspections? It's good to do it when buying a house, and then every 3 to 5 years, not a bad idea, just like colonoscopy. Well, guess what? When the economy changes and our home inspections are down, we have services that we can offer outside of a real estate transaction. That changes everything. So these tools, so for example, like, for me, there's training on level 2 chimney inspections. You could talk to me in the break time and I've got solutions. But if you don't understand something, the training gives you the confidence. I have the solutions. You can easily available. There's other vendors. You go online. Everything you want. Google will tell you what you need to know. But the standard on chimney states, the standard in the NFPA standard states that you must be formally trained, which is determined saying that you've gone through a training, completed an exam, you're certified. That's what it says. And that's what qualifies you to do a level 2 chimney inspection. Okay? Whereas sewer, there is nothing other than the insurance carriers. So I've had a number of my students that have called me and asked me, oh, I need my certificate, I forgot to print it out. Because the insurance carriers some of the carriers have come forward and said, we want to know that you're certified or trained in this, we're not just going to insure you. Okay. So one inspection, you get a fireplace in a sewer, you've paid for this, and you can get the best stuff out there. What's the difference between cameras? Anybody have any questions? We're at the kind of the final part. I want to leave time for questions. Yes?
I was wondering how the inspection works for the chimney flue, because sometimes you get these calls where you just can't go there. So how far along can you push? Because you're pushing against gravity.
Yeah, no, so you're not pushing a sewer cable up. You're pushing a push rod. And I have them during the break. You can come and I'll show you what a push rod looks like. So any questions about sewer? Business, marketing, Anything that you've had a challenge on a job. Yes, ma'am.
So we do sewer spans on a lot of new builds in Phoenix.
Yes. Smart. I love it.
Yeah,
The builder's on the hook.
well, builders on the hook, and then again, going back to your fear, we don't know what the painters and the drywall people
Dump down the sewer.
don't start off a new home with a clogged sewer line.
Yeah.
So,
They dump their grout when the tile guy cleans. He dumps the grout. I had one in Orlando, Florida. I was teaching a class, and we went out to a new build, and I'm running the line, and it was full of 1.5 inches of grout that had already hardened on the bottom of the pipe. So new build, smart. I had a 10,000 square foot brand new home where the pipe had a belly, and I found this. The guy had me do thermal, had me do everything on this inspection, and ended up costing the builder $5,000. He sent me a thank you card, the builder, and he said, listen, he said, you taught me a big lesson. He goes, when I went and approached the plumber says it was the landscaper driving the tractor over. The reality is the plumber was required to compact the line, but then when the landscape guy went over, it created compression and pushed the pipe down, and it had a big belly. And he sent me the pictures. They were 6 feet down in the ground, big trench. They had to run a new pipe, recompact and everything. So new home's smart. Anything else? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So a lot of times, I'll come to a situation where I'll have a say until the right? Everybody has it. I don't work for them, I work for the client, but
Yeah.
I kind of do work for them. Did you ever come into a situation where it's like, don't kill the deal, but now I just found out that the sewer line is busted?
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be fixed, the seller or the buyer backs out,
Okay.
that agent doesn't.
No, that's fair. So let me tell you what the definition of a deal killer is, okay? Because this term is often used in the inspection industry, and agents use it. A deal killer is an inspector who does not know how to communicate. Is that fair? So what is the key? I can teach anybody home inspection, but I cannot teach anybody how to communicate. And that is one of the number one things that I excel with, is my ability to communicate even to celebrities, the highest stature of people. I've had people, high in government. I've had celebrities. I've had big executives that, that guy who bought that $19 million house was 34 years old. He was an investment. He in this case, he made good decisions on investment. So deal killer is your ability to communicate. So deal killer is somebody saying, you got a problem. And they're like, well, what? You got a problem. I mean, your whole pipe is broken. It's to kapoots. No. The guy that goes and says, when I was inspecting the line, I had an offset. Anything can be fixed. It's good that we found this now. It can be resolved. At the end of the day, it's got to be taken care of because you're not, But when you start freaking people out, that's a deal killer. And so I tell agents, it says, I excel in my ability to communicate my findings. And my goal is to present this to the buyer and the seller in an effective way that they'll understand. Do you know that what is most sellers' revenge? They hire you for their inspection. They hate you so much, they love you. Have I lied to you guys? Have I spoken the truth? Do I speak your understandings? I've been in this business. I can tell you that these things, you got a wall, come talk to me. What's your problem like with getting this out there? Believe me, I get guys who call me. I just can't get it to go. It's not hard. My contact info is there. I've got some business cards up here. I've got plenty of time. I'm only here for you guys. So at the end, come see me at the booth. If there's no other questions, I thank you today.